Okay, so this is the help session. I have one foot out the door and I think I may be quitting. Technically you're not, you just raised your hand to get help. And that's really, we joke about the one foot out the door in some ways, but we know that everybody has quitting moments, without a doubt. And I'm going to share a little bit about my story, but to begin with, though, what this doesn't need to be is a bash, the shipping issues, bash home office, bash direct selling, and most importantly, number one, not bash yourself, because this business is brutal. Because it messes with your mind. You're not sitting in an office where everybody gets to high five and fire each other up. You're sitting at home, usually juggling 2 or 3 kids, the laundry, the dishes, just life in general. And then you got to go, oh, I got to work for a living too. And it can be incredibly fun, but it can be incredibly challenging as well. And the most important thing that we as women typically do and don't need to do is beat ourselves up. So that's number one rule. The number 2 thing is I really want to help people recognize that everybody struggles. No matter how successful you are, you have struggles. Some of the most successful people on our team have epic struggles, either balancing the business with special needs children, balancing the business with husbands who don't want them to ever leave the house or do the business when they're home, literally I was telling Katie, and some of you may heard, I literally just left my parents. My mom has 105-degree temperature, and the paramedics came to take her to the emergency room, and she wouldn't go, and they can't take her by law. So everybody has struggles that you just work around. And the choice is ours, and this is the mindset kind of the night. The choice is to choose to either be defeated by that and choose to take the easy way and go, you know what, it's just not for me, and to stop. Or the more empowering way to look at it is to jump in and power through it and be more positive and be more, I can do this, I've just got to figure it out, that kind of attitude. And frankly, that's the way I've gotten through a couple things. 2 different times, I'll show you, I don't know if you saw my video earlier, actually 4 different times in my career. I've been doing Usborne for 14 years. By the way, I'm Pamela, for some of you that don't know me. I guess that's helpful. I have thought often of quitting because I am sometimes not a go-getter. Sometimes I just get in that rut and it's so hard to get, bookings or get recruits or whatever. Been on probation 3 or 4 times. I think in the video I mentioned that the June before the London, Scotland trip ended in October, at the end of October that year. I was actually on probation, which means that I hadn't had $750 in sales for the last 3 months. I mean, that's kind of pathetic. And I didn't have anything booked. I think I had 1 big event maybe in November booked. And at convention, I locked myself out of my room. And so I was just sitting there kind of, journaling. And I could have either right at that point said, you know what, this is just too hard, I'm done. Or I can do what I did and said, this should be easy, and then have a little wake-up call and realize, no, it shouldn't. I mean, our husbands' jobs aren't easy. If we went and worked part-time at a retail store, it wouldn't be easy. If we had to go back full-time and work in some, career or some, way more hours than we want, it wouldn't be easy for you, your family, your kids, anywhere around. And so I was like, why should this be easy? And it basically was a kick in the pants to say, what are you going to do differently to make it work? And so the biggest thing I did was become very strategic with my time. And I'll get to that in a minute. The second time I want to show you is I had a huge team. By year 3 or 4, I think I had 9 team leaders. By year 3, I guess it was. And back then it was very different. You had to have tons of people, 5 or 10 people under you, huge sales numbers. So it was very different. So I think after 2 or 3 years, I had, 6 team leaders. So I was making about $1,500 a month just on my bonuses on top of what I made. Then all of a sudden, I don't know if I can get this close enough, I got a $258 bonus there. And then you can see how angry I was. I was like, never again. I am not letting that happen again. Because I went from tons of team leaders to very few. Actually, at that point, I had none at that point. And it was just, again, another wake-up call. So I tell you those two stories to say, to me, failure is an option, because you learn in those hard times, and then it helps you be able to turn around and help other people, which I hope tonight I'll be able to help you. Without a doubt, I can't tell you how many times I've been with 0 on my calendar, and I just get up and power through, and I fill my calendar. And you can do this too. So here's what we're going to talk about. Several different things. I want to make sure that if you can jot them down, the key things, and then I'm going to expand on a lot of them. I'm actually going to move this so I can read it front and center. There we go. The first thing I want to do is thank you guys. Thank you for being humble. Thank you for raising your hand to say, I need help, because that's the first step to say that you care enough about this business. 40 some people RSVP'd, and look how many people are on here. So I know you guys really, really, really want this to work. And that's what I love, because that shows me you guys are going to make it work. So the first thing, number 1, is thank you. Number 2, be real as I ask these questions, because if you don't own the issues or the lack thereof behavior, no one else is going to. Because no one's looking over your shoulder. No one's going to know anything. This is just between you and you to say, yes, I'm doing that, or no, I'm not. And I'm not pointing fingers, because as I wrote these lists out, I was like, how many am I really doing of a lot of these things too? So I'm totally preaching from my weakness here tonight. So number 1, let's start. How many contacts a day are you making consistently? Meaning, doesn't have to be a phone call, but phone calls, private messaging, texting, out and about, seeing people, or email. So how many contacts a day? Most people, especially this time of year, say, oh, my schedule's so crazy, I don't have time to do that. And that's where I'd just say time out. If you are really wanting to make this business work, I want to pay 3 kids way through college. Right now, I'm halfway paying for 2 kids. I want to pay all 3 out of cash. So what I have to go is, okay, wait a minute, time out. If I don't have time to make contacts every day, I've got to schedule it in, just like I schedule in my laundry, just like I have to schedule in picking up kids, taking parents to doctor's appointments. This is a piece of my puzzle. And you've got so many hours in the day, and you've got to say, okay, what does that look like? Now, for each of you, it could totally be different. It could be like when my kids were young, I worked kind of whenever. Then as they got a little bit older, I worked nap time and nighttime. And then as they got in elementary school, I worked in the afternoons or the mornings. And now most of them are gone in college, and I have one in high school. I work in the morning, so I'm available at night. But the key is, when are you working? That you've got to decide what works best for you. For example, I work 2 hours a day no matter what. So typically 10 to 12. And if I don't do 10 to 12, then I'm doing 2 to 4. And if I can't do it during the day, then I'm doing 7 to 9 at night. I am working a minimum of 2 hours a day. I currently have a luxury, because of the season I'm in, to do way more than that. So then I typically am working 2 hours in the afternoon as well if I can. It just totally depends on the season you're in. But no matter what, you've got to be making contacts every day. So number 1, how many contacts a day? And kind of dovetail, but we'll come back to it, is, when are you working? When are you building your business? You've got to write that down and be strategic, or this won't succeed. It's just too easy to get pulled away to the laundry, to the, kitchen, to picking up, to kids, to, a little bit of everything. Number 2, how many people are you adding? Like, how many new people are you adding into your network every day, or every week? By this, I mean, are you out and about meeting new people? Are you involved with any civic organizations, donating your time, volunteering at church, in a reading club, in a networking group, in PTA, Lord have mercy, tons of options. Where are you meeting new people to constantly getting, new network people into your network? Because that's huge. You've got to be able to do that. Are you doing exposure events, which is one of the things that I'm really big on, that if you don't have a list of names that you know or leads from previous events, you've got to find a very inexpensive exposure event. An example today, Katie's already heard this, but today I spent not a fun day from 7:30 in the morning till 2 at a coffee house. I talked to 6 people all day, and we did sell $200, so that was fun. But those were 6 new people I didn't know, and they're now all on my newsletter, and 2 of them may host a show. I don't know. I've got to follow up. But those were new people, and because I didn't have anything on my schedule in July, I had to do that. Would I prefer 30 minutes, at a Facebook party selling $200? Yes. But I didn't have a Facebook party. So I have to get out there and get some new, people in my network. Number 3, what's your mindset? And this is huge. You attract what you focus on. So if you are like, there's no way this is going to happen, I might as well quit, or this is going to be so difficult, I just don't think it's worth it, you're halfway out the door. And that will just grow and put you in a pretty negative place versus, gosh, this is so difficult. I'm really not sure how I'm going to do it, but by golly, I'm going to do this. No matter what, I'm going to do it. I'm going to work through this. I'm going to figure it out. And a perfect example, someone told me, everybody struggles, and in weight loss, something I've dealt with for my whole life, I can choose to struggle and bemoan that I have to, I can't have that donut, or I can't have that piece of pizza, or I can't have that whatever, and just be poor, pitiful me, or I can struggle and make the right choice and feel better about myself. So everything's this, everybody has a struggle. It's just, which do you choose? Do you choose to be defeated by it or power through it? So your mindset is huge. If you focus on, this is so hard, this is so difficult, woe is me, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of bookings. Versus if you focus on, this is so difficult, this is going to be something I've really got to work through, and figure out a way to energize yourself, you're going to have a much better, chance. The best way to energize yourself is number 4, which is you need to be listening or reading, but I like listening to 90 minutes or more of positive training, mindset improvement, whatever. You go, oh my gosh, when would I have time to do that? How many of you ride all over the place running errands? How many of you, have 30 minutes that you are cooking? I'm driving all the time, so I'm always in the car. But when I'm not, I have things like, and these sound really dorky, but they're good, be a recruiting superstar, dun, 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 dun. Be a network marketing superstar. Oh, I'm going to be multiple superstars. From Belinda Ellsworth, who spoke at convention, has tons of stuff. I post every single week, usually 2 to 3 a week, some type of motivational thing. But the key is, go out on YouTube, find somebody you like the sound of, talk to your team leader. I guarantee they have somebody that is so motivating to listen to. But just constantly feeding things in your mind, not to fluff you up, but to really get your mindset in the right place where you're positive, you're excited about the work, and you're, having fun trying to get the things that you're looking for. Okay, number 5, do you attend, and this is huge, do you attend or watch weekly trainings? Every single week we post, usually on Tuesday, but not always, but we post something that's great to watch. For example, this last week, I posted an interview I did with a corporate recruiter. She happens to be an Usborne consultant. She was number 2 in sales for Literacy for Lifetime, but she's a corporate recruiter for a living. And she shared things like, how many times do you have to, call somebody before, or touch them, call, text, email, whatever, before they'll respond? Hers was typically not as high as 10, but it is 5 to 7 times. The first time someone's like, oh, that's a great idea, when someone calls. The second time they're like, oh man, I need to call her back. The third time it's, golly, okay, I got to figure out when I'm going to call her back. And then the fourth time, email, text, whatever, they're like, okay, I can pick up the phone number, or, okay, let me sit down, look at my calendar, and then I'll call her back. So it takes, 3 to 5 times to contact somebody. So that's huge. That takes a lot of effort and tracking. We do have tracking sheets. If you don't have one, call your team leader, or I will try and post this too. this is a recruiting pipeline. Can y'all see? I hope y'all can see that. So it's a recruiting pipeline. You put the person's name, where you met them, email, etc. But then do you notice how many squares there are? There's 8. The average time to get somebody to make a decision to book, to do anything is, like I said, between 3, mainly 5 is what I've found. So that's a huge thing. To watch that, the whole point was weekly trainings. So that's a great thing. But the other thing she said is typically it's 10%. So if you're calling one person a day, you're gonna, if you're calling one person a day, you're going to get a tenth of a person. You're going to have to call like 10 people to get someone to join or somebody to book with you. So your numbers have to reflect your goals. If, like, for example, this is crazy, I know, but I would love to have 10 shows a month. That's way up than I'm normally doing. So to do 10 shows a month, I got to call 100 people a day for a while. And I didn't get there today. I did call about 30 today because I was sitting at that coffee shop. But again, whatever your goals are, if you want to have 1 show a week, then you need to be making significant volume of calls. And training can help you with that kind of stuff. So watch, oh my gosh, sorry, family calling. Watch weekly calls so that, not watch weekly calls, watch weekly videos so that you get a chance to get training and updated stuff. Number 6, talk to your team leader every week. Whether they've set the time or not, you make sure it happens. Katie, I apologize. It's been a crazy week. Haven't gotten to you yet. And here's why. Just like on a vine, branches have to be connected to the vine for them to produce grapes. Same with us. I have to be connected to our team or I wither away. I'm definitely a people person. I have to be connected, talking, kind of energizing, being creative, helping other people for me to be excited about the business. And then I can take that and focus on my team or my hostesses and my potential customers. But I've got to be plugged in. And for more reason than one, not just to say, hey, how you doing, but to be strategic. What have you called? Who have you called? What have you got booked? Where can we brainstorm new ideas? Kind of big picture vision setting kind of stuff. And if you don't connect with your direct team leader, that's okay, guys. You can go somewhere else. Do you know I haven't talked to my team leader in over a year? I think over a year, strategically. That's okay. It's just not her thing, and we don't totally connect, but she's fabulous. That's okay. That's the importance of having an Uzzy buddy, somebody that's a friend or somebody that is, just like a peer to you is great. They don't have to be on our team. They can be on any team. That's really important to connect if you don't connect with your team leader. And then number 2 is that's why it's so fun to have somebody, below you that you've brought into the business is fabulous because then you can have fun with them as well. So, okay, next, moving on. Number 7. I got to leave room for questions. Have you called, texted, or private messaged every single person that you've either had as a customer, a hostess, or in that initial brainstorming in the booking notebook? Hopefully your team leader had you brainstorm. I set a huge number. I don't know if yours did, but I have people brainstorm 100 names. They may not get there, and that's okay, but that's the goal I'm shooting for. And so that's the main thing that, if you haven't reached back out to all those people, that is huge. And I just want to make sure that you get a chance to go back. And how you do that is, I call it the 222. 2 days after a show, 2 weeks after a show, and 2 months after a show, you're checking back in with those people. It's customer care calls. So if you want to refresh or if you want to learn about customer care calls, we've got videos on it on the Usborne Dream Team if you're on the Dream Team. We have audios on the National if you're on the National team on customer care calls under resources and audio training. So making sure that you're following up with people. Hey, what was your favorite book? Are your kids enjoying it? I'm sure there was more on your list. I would love to have you host a show. gosh, why, that would be great because you'd get so many for free and we have all these new titles. And if you're calling just, hey, this is great, I've got this date for you, or I have one next week as well, which would work better for you to get free books. If you're building that relationship and you're calling on a regular basis, they'll be thrilled that you followed up with them. Some will say no, that's okay. I can't control what they say. All I can control is my calls and how many I'm doing. Okay, number 8. These are turning into a little bit more of to-dos, but oh gosh, I already did that one. Have you watched the recruiting video? So we already did that one. Number 9, there were 3 homework assignments before this that if you didn't get to listen to those, go back and listen to them. One is one of mine on personal shopping appointments. And again, they're audio trainings on your back office under resources. Personal shopping appointments were huge in helping me get out of empty calendars, because I was sitting in carpool one day going, oh my gosh, I know all these people sort of, like a little bit. We say, hey, we know their kids, but we've never done anything together. And one day I was so frustrated with my schedule, I literally hopped out of the car and I started going car to car, which is pretty goofy, and just saying, hey, Kathy, how you doing? I would love to get to know you better. I would love to meet for soda. What are you doing tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow before carpool? I'd love to tell you what I'm all about. I'd love to hear what you're all about. Let's just get to know each other. Let's go have soda. And I knew him well enough that I could do that and it wasn't kind of creepy. Who are the people in your life that you can do that personal shopping appointment with? Someone just did it yesterday. Heather on my team just did one yesterday, and the person loved him so much she decided to book. So you never know what you'll get out of it. Worst case scenario, you've got a great relationship with somebody now. You've poured into somebody, which I think is a great thing. The other one of them is Tabitha Roach, and she is so inspirational. Anything you can listen to of Tabitha's is fabulous, but this particular one is getting back on the path to success, and it's very inspirational. And then the third one was Pamela Cocky, and she is in the military, or her husband is, and they move constantly. And so it's her story of when she moved to Panama City, she had to start completely over, and what she did. And when I need a restart, I always listen to that and just pretend I'm new in my city, because Atlanta's so huge. There's so much opportunity. And just, even if you're in a small city, there's more opportunity than there. Huntsville, Alabama, I think has like 80 consultants. It's crazy. And it's a tiny town. So you can definitely always find a new business without a doubt, especially with Facebook. There's so much opportunity. So those are the 3 audios I would definitely go back and listen to. Make that a part of your 90 minutes of improvement, training and improvement. And I know you might think that's fluff, but those are the things when you work from home you've got to do. You've got to stay plugged in and keep getting new ideas and refreshed. And it's hard to do, there's no doubt. But what I do is I take my computer and set it next to my sink, and when I'm doing dishes, I listen to training. So I don't get so frustrated that I'm doing so many dishes. Okay. Last thing, and this is probably the most critical thing, and then we'll chat for a few minutes about some other stuff, your zip code, etc. The most important thing is setting your schedule. You can't expect to run a business if you don't have business hours, right? You can't just assume that everything's going to stay in place or happen. And I touched on this earlier, but you've got to have a real working hours. And as I said, for me, 10 to 12, that's what I do, because I go walk with a friend first, and then I love to go out for lunch. And then I can come back and work in the afternoon as well, if I have that flexibility. It could be you're doing nap time and nighttime. It could be that you put the laundry in the morning and you play with your kids, and then you let them play for a bit. They're great. They need that independence. Put a video on if they can't handle the independence, but take the time to make 2 calls. I think we tend to be, all or nothing, at least I do. So take the time to, at least make 1 or 2 calls during those little breaks in those times. And have it written down what you want to say. I'm a huge believer in scripts. And what I typically do is my schedule, for example, looks like me Monday. I'm working on my business on Monday. Team Tuesday, it's all about team. Wednesdays are free for all. Thursday, I do my parents. And Friday, I do whatever I can. So Tuesday, I'm doing all training calls. So I'm calling all my team as best I can. Monday, though, I do what's called a power hour. And Belinda gave us this, well, we bought it a couple of years ago. But the idea is to do several different things. You can do 15, if you only have an hour to work in a day, split it into 15-minute increments, okay? And spend a whole 15 minutes. I've got to pull this out because I always forget. You've got several different parts of your business. So if you're doing an hour, I would do 15 minutes on new bookings, home show bookings or Facebook bookings. And that way, every call you make for that 15 minutes is on booking. So you get in your groove and you get excited, or you get at least the verbiage down. Then the next 15 minutes, I would do all recruiting calls. Then the next 15 minutes, I'm going to do all customer care calls, which is just following up with customers. And then the last 15 minutes is my hostess coaching calls. So I get those hostesses fired up. For me, what I like to do is a power hour instead of 15 minutes. I mean, that's a power hour, but instead of doing 15, 15, and 15, I'm doing an hour, an hour. So just because the volume of where I want to be. So I'm doing an hour calling as many customers as I can. I'm doing an hour, ideally, calling all my hostesses. Then I'm doing an hour calling all the people that have said they're interested in information about the business. And then finally I'm doing an hour with book people that said they want to book. I think I missed something in there. Anyway, be organized and set a schedule. When am I making recruiting calls? When am I making booking calls? When am I doing hostess coaching calls? And then the other thing you've got to do and fit in there somewhere is just searching for new business. How do I find that? And that's probably the biggest question I get. And I wrote down everybody's zip codes here. Got them there. You can see. Woo! Guess what? I went and I was going to print them all out, and I thought that's dumb because I don't know how to get them to you. But I went and I searched, just Googled 3 different things in every zip code, and tons of information popped up. So here are the 3 things you need to do. So if you are 48603 or 12019 or 37034, et cetera, there's business to be had for an exposure event. And that's, again, to meet new people. But I would tell you, don't you dare pay for a new booth if you haven't already reached out to every single previous customer, every single previous hostess, and everybody on your networking kind of brainstorming list. Because it's a waste of money, right? Otherwise, if you haven't already done that. Like, you're going to laugh, but I have stacks and stacks and stacks of leads. And my husband always says, like so many stacks, my daughter put them in Excel, right? I mean, crazy. Anyway, my husband's like, why would you get a new booth? You have so many leads you haven't followed up on. You're like, oh yeah, that's right. So anyway, the 3 things you need to Google are mothers of preschoolers organizations. Typically they're at churches, but they can be anywhere. Mothers of preschoolers, homeschool groups in your zip code. There are tons and tons of homeschool groups. And right now they're looking for curriculum. Some may already have it, but they're looking for curriculum. We have lists of what curriculum and what books go with it that are so easy. If you're not familiar with homeschooling, that's okay. Just print out the list, ask your team leader for the list, have it side by side. And then when you're calling or trying to reach people, you can just say, depending on the curriculum your folks use, we've got books that go with it. Do you have any events coming up? I can be a vendor. Would you be willing to let me, give you some information for you to pass out? I would love to help people get it for free versus paying full price, because most of them are paying for Usborne anyway. So Mothers of Preschoolers, if you're not familiar with that, stepping back, is just a community for moms that have preschoolers. So they typically come together either once every other week or once a month and do some type of group event, as well as, their kids are in preschool, et cetera. It's just kind of a mother's morning out, if you will. So mothers of preschoolers, homeschoolers, and then preschools, not daycare. But if you Google preschools in your zip code, you want to see what church preschools, especially because a lot of times those are mothers morning out, where you've got moms that do hang out and just have their kids in there for a couple mornings. But church preschools are typically not too huge, so you don't have to have huge inventory, and people aren't literally dropping their kids off at 7 in the morning and picking them up at 5 through a drive-through. They're really coming in. There's more relationship. There's a little more time that you can talk with people. So if you do some type of mini booth or book fair with them, then you can actually get to know people and have them fill out a drawing slip and have that for just for leads and stuff like that. So those 3 things alone are huge. And then the last one is, do you Google like holiday market or festival or event? Those are the other things that are out there. Right now, farmers markets are huge. Do 1 or 2 of those. You won't sell very much, but these are for exposure, to get new names, to meet people outside your friend or family group. So those are 4 different ways: mothers of preschoolers, homeschoolers, preschools, and then events, markets, or festivals. And just literally put in your zip code and Google that, and you'll be shocked how much comes up. Will all of them call you back? No. So again, your success isn't defined by who answers you. Your success is defined by how many calls you made based on your goal. That hopefully that hits. Don't feel like a failure because you get all no's. You can't control that, right? You just focus on the people that you're calling, get your numbers done. Typically, once I hit about 10, 11 calls, I start getting so many things that I have to stop. But it's getting past those first 3 that are awful and no's that you got to keep going. And then all of a sudden you get some magic and it starts happening. So just really try and search those. But I would tell you, don't search your zip code unless you've already talked to your previous customers, previous hostesses, and your networking, your booking notebook. Hopefully all of you have within the last 30 days re-brainstormed 100 names. I would totally do that every couple of months just to see who you've added to your network. If you haven't done that since you first joined, you need to start over, and here's the other reason why, and then we'll kind of wrap up. When you first join, you're excited, but you're fairly timid. So you're just kind of getting those surface people that like totally first come to mind. You need to go deeper now, obviously. You need to brainstorm really everybody you know. And you can use friends, relatives, acquaintances, anybody like your husband's or, your previous work, neighbors at all locations if you move around. And then lastly, anything to do with kids, whether it's your kids, nanny kids, somebody that just teaches kids, an aunt, whatever. Just do that every couple of months to refresh. Because remember, it's important to be adding to your network. I think it was number 2, how many people are you adding to your network? That's a huge piece from the recruiting standpoint. But here's the thing. Lastly, and I'll kind of wrap up a little bit. You guys can do this because, if you go to National Convention, you literally hear all different stories. They had somebody that lived in a Winnebago full time. They had somebody that has 3 or 4 special needs kids. They have someone that, who else spoke? The special needs kid. I mean, they pulled every single excuse possible. Work full-time job, full-time corporate job. There is somebody in every walk of life, every circumstance that succeeds in this, and we know you guys can do it. And I know you want it, or you wouldn't have, stepped up to do this. So your team leader gets paid to help you and coach you and motivate you. If that's not happening, or you just need something fresh, doesn't mean anything against them. You just want something fresh, reach out to somebody else. This company is great about that. Tomorrow we're posting something called Uzzy Buddies, and it's a form that you'll fill out saying, hey, I want an Uzzy Buddy. And what you're going to do is your personality, when you typically work, is it nap time, nighttime, morning, all sorts of different questions, really short. And then what we're going to do is try and match you all up. So if you're doing the Amazing Race with us, we're going to help you match up. If you just want it to do Usborne, kind of do life together, we're going to match people up. So we're super excited about that. That's posting tomorrow. And that will really help just to have somebody to walk through this with. Make sure, though, it's not a whine fest. where I have to bring some cheese. You want to be positive. You want to be motivated. You want to power through those struggles and motivate each other, keep each other accountable. Don't let the other person off the hook. Get them to, help each other to really motivate to move forward with the business for sure. The biggest three things that people tend to struggle with, I have it written down here, and then we'll totally wrap up, is cancellations, people not being able to pin down people for dates for bookings, and then the last one is really, I think, just our schedule. And the first two are hostess coaching. So if you're thinking, gosh, everybody keeps canceling, or hostesses don't show up, or I can't pin down my friend, they keep saying fall or August or whatever, that is all hostess coaching for sure. So go back and talk to your team leader about hostess coaching. But it's also when you're talking to people for bookings, if you're having that trouble, make sure you just say, hey guys, I'm filling up, or hey guys, I have 2 dates, coming up. I've got these 2, which would work better for you because my schedule is filling. And just be positive. It will fill, so why not go ahead and just get them to make that decision? Because personally, I'd rather have them say no and forget about them than keep wondering when they're going to do it. I either want them to say yes or no, period, and move on. So if I push a little hard, that's okay. Again, I'd rather get that yes or no versus having to keep up with somebody for months on end, because I'm not good at that. So anyway, I think you guys can do it. Your team leader, I know, is cheering for you. We just know that it's a mindset half the time. Everybody struggles. It's just either it's a higher volume struggle, like to make 100 calls is not easy for me. So it's a matter of really working and powering through that to make sure I schedule my day so that I can do that. Whereas 5 could be really difficult for you. That's okay. Everybody struggles different. How are you going to look at it? Are you going to let it beat you, or are you going to power through it and just figure out how to make it happen? Because I know it can. I know it can. There are too many people, guys, oh my gosh, at National Convention, literally 25% of our company is making $10,000 a month or more. And they're no different from us, y'all. They live in podunk little world. They've got kids. The one driving the Winnebago, literally, they just travel the country and they live in a Winnebago. She's making $10,000 a month. Her husband quit his job. I'm like, hey, I'll take that. So it can be done. We can do it. And we have a phenomenal team environment. You've got a phenomenal event coming up to totally help and partner together. And every week we're going to focus on a basic tenet of our business. So it really, there's no reason. We've got all the pieces of the puzzle. The main thing is your schedule and just the mindset. And that's where I battle the most with it as well. So I just think you guys are going to rock it. So let's do this. Take the time now to jot down. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to wrap up, but take the time now to jot down 3 questions that you want to ask your team leader. Okay. And follow back up with them tonight or tomorrow, and make sure you've thought through these 10 questions. Maybe go ahead and answer those 10 questions before you write the question to the team leader, because I guarantee if you go through these 10 questions, you'll probably answer your frustration, if that makes sense. And then what we're going to do probably next week is come back, and instead of me kind of going through all this, have just okay, I'm doing all these things, now what? But what I wanted to do is make sure you're doing all these things. You've listened to the 3 trainings, the 1 interview, and then you've asked your tough questions to your team leaders. Because I think if we're really honest, most of it boils down to consistency and volume of calls. Unfortunately, we're a calling business, and we've just got to do that. And summer is a tough time. Right now is a tough time. There's no doubt. But you guys can rock it. I know we've had this month. We're already up like 300% over last year in July. Who knew? So people are doing it, and we can do it too. So you guys are rock stars. Thank you for listening. Thank you. And let me stop this.